Scotland has some lovely glens. This is not one of them. This is Glen Rothes, which is a new town in Fife. It's not a very inspiring place and not a hugely pretty place, but we're not here for long. We're just here to pick up some supplies ahead of our adventure. Today we are heading into Royal Deeside. We're going to be visiting the sites that would have been familiar to Queen Victoria, the wee towns and the castles that she knew so well. Okay, it's decision time. We are in Blairgowrie, and is it the charity shop first or are we going for a cup of coffee?
Charity shops first.
Charity shops first. Okay, charity shops first. There you have, unanimous vote.
Then coffee.
Then coffee. Right, so obviously the first thing you got to do when you get to a new town is look in the charity shops and the junk shops, and oh, look at that. That's a really smart big flag in there. That's £55, so we're not having that. There's a large dog, if you'd like a large dog ornament. And oh, here's some more blacking bottles and things. Those are really cool. That's Master Ink bottles, as they used to be called. Bex is pretending to look in all the nice arty shops. What she actually wants to look in is the charity shop over there. We love a good charity shop and we love going hunting for bargains, but unfortunately in little places like this, bargains are really hard to come by in the charity shops. Everything is a bit expensive. But what I always go and look for is the record collection. If you can find the records, there's usually some gems in there. I don't mean gems you want to buy, I just mean things that you look at and you think, what on earth, that was once somebody's pride and joy. This one was particularly cool. I really love the cover of this. If you were a wee short man like Mr. Kennedy, why would you take a photo with Mrs. Kennedy, I assume standing on a step, to make you look even weirder and more ridiculous? There's lots of things to do according to the sign, and that one at the top, the Cairngorms Trail, apparently is a long distance circular walking trail that we now know about, but we've got no intention of doing because it's long distance and walking. Yeah, no thanks. I did not know Blairgowrie was called the Berry Toon. No idea why. Let's see if we can find out. Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. Nope. This is quite a nice wee place. We will come back here and do a proper explore of Blairgowrie at some point in the future, because we are quite liking it. Quite liking this big columny thing. Don't know what it is. Just waffling now till I can find out. I'm going to guess War Memorial from that plaque on the side, but let's yeah, it's a War Memorial. There is a list of names. If we'd come in from the other side, we would have known it was a War Memorial, because there is a soldier who has done his duty. His rifle is pointing down the way. It is a pretty wee place. Unfortunately, we don't have time to explore it today, but we will definitely be back.
Another couple of charity shops and then we'll find a coffee.
So we're going now to look at some charity shops that Bex noticed on the way in. We're not spending all day charity shopping, although to be fair, if there's lots of charity shops, we might.
There's your favourite saying. Pop in for a wee look.
Oh, another charity shop. Bex is getting well stocked up because there may be no charity shops up in the moon. We don't know. Area north of here was historically referred to as the Month, and we like using that term because it makes us sound dead intelligent, like we know what we're talking about. To be fair, that's not always entirely successful. Anyway, we got back in Mabel and headed out of Blairgowrie up into the Cairngorms mountains, and I mean up. Poor old Mabel was really toiling up some of the big hills as we climbed up over the top and then dropped down towards Royal Deeside. Mabel is struggling up this big hill and our ears are popping, so we must be almost at the top. I bet you get a good view when you get to here. I peaked too soon with my good view. I should have waited till we got round this corner, but this is all looking a bit pretty. That's us, arrived at the starting point we had in mind for this little adventure. We are in the town of Braemar, and Bex is just looking through the book to see what we can see. We're going to try and not use Google, we're going to try and not use the internet, we're going to use the book, we're going to use brown signs, and we're going to have a little oldie worldy tourist investigation of Braemar and the surrounding area. This is the place we're heading for. This is the Braemar Highland Games game field, which is quite interesting, I think. A lot of history here, and I'm guessing you guys know what Highland Games are. I won't bore you with the details. So that is where a couple of times a year it all happens, and I say a couple of times a year because there's a senior normal big Highland Games and there's also a junior Highland Games, which must be quite exciting. And I think from pictures that we've seen of the event, that little building over there would be the luxurious accommodation for the King or Queen. It would have been the Queen up to now. From now on it'll be the King. And we know old King Charles, he does love Scotland and he does love his Highland Games, so he'll be sitting in there watching all the action. Bex is now engaged on the most important task of the day, poo disposal. This is a particularly attractive caber tossing person here. Hello. It suits you. Bex has demanded that we do that again, so she's not a gentleman tossing the caber, but actually I don't know which one looks most realistic. That is the sort of professional entrance to the Highland Games arena. We are going to go through here until somebody shouts, "Oi, you're not allowed in there." Nobody shouted at us yet, we're almost at the gate. Oh. So there is the little palatial bit for the king and the posh people, and then a roofed bit for the people that are slightly less posh but still quite posh, and then this for people who are a bit posh but not really posh, and over there is the open air soggy wet bit for the plebs like us. At least they get a good view, and then over there you don't even get a good view because you're pretty flat. One thing we've noticed on the front of this, as you know, the Royal Shield of Great Britain, the royal sort of emblem, is the lion and the unicorn being Scotland and the lion being England and the rest. So there is a lion and a unicorn drawn by somebody that obviously the unicorn is imaginary, so nobody knows what it looks like, but that lion looks like somebody has just given it a shock. Maybe they've slipped a cold finger up its, yeah, you can imagine it looks, yeah, not much like an actual lion, but hey-ho. And Bex is off for a wee lie down in a darkened room because I think her head is full of images of big muscly men in kilts doing Highland things like shot put and tossing the caber and all the things that they do and the big tug of war. And over behind Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee archway is the Duke of Rothesay Highland Games Pavilion and the J.S. Milne Gallery, and that is what we are going to go and have a look at now. That is quite a nice building. I do quite like that shade of green. The green and the red works very well. That is a nice place. Let's go in and look at the gallery and the shop and all the stuff that's inside this little building until we get told to put the camera away and stop talking to ourselves. When Prince Charles was Prince Charles, he was the Duke of Rothesay, but now that he's king, he's passed that title on to his son, Prince William, who is also Duke of Rothesay when he's in Scotland. So in England he is the Prince of Wales, when he's in Scotland he is the Duke of Rothesay. As if the excitement of men in kilts tossing cabers and putting shots wasn't too much, Bex has found something that's got her going even more.
There's a fine selection of sporrans in here.
I'm sorry, a fine selection of what? Unfortunately, everything in here is behind very reflective glass, but there is a set of bagpipes, and there's me. Hello! So the Braemar Highland Gathering is obviously what the town is best known for, but there's some nice mannequins. Unfortunately, as I said before, they're all behind shiny glass, but there's a sort of full chocolate box Highland regalia from behind, and over there, behind yet more glass that is quite reflective and probably not great to look at, is the regalia from the front. And because the real thing doesn't show up very well, there are some paintings of the various clans in their various ceremonial get-ups, which I think is quite smart. Everything is just designed for show more than anything else. It's not much good in battle and probably not very practical, but this is ceremonial dress for things like going to the Braemar Highland Games. Some of the events at the Highland Games you'd recognise, some of them are even Olympic sports, but some of them you won't. Tossing the caper is not in the Olympics because frankly it's a bit silly, but things like this, the hammer are. That is a representation of a man throwing a big metal hammer as far as he can. It's not difficult to get your head around the rules of that one. That is a stone that is for the stone carrying, and that is a throwing thing that is for the throwing thing, and that is one of those hammers that is for the throwing thing, and that those are for the fight in the pub afterwards. It's a really, really nice wee place. I didn't have high expectations of it being interesting. I'm not really much of a royalist and into all the Highlander hoity-toity tartan stuff, but it's actually genuinely quite interesting. And we are going to show you guys a Highland Games. There's one coming up soon that we're going to go and, I'd say cover, but that makes us sound professional. We're going to go and watch and film and gibber like we usually do. So that was quite interesting, and now we're going to go for a wee walk into the village of Braemar and see what we can find in there that is worth a wee look. And Bex, who's over there, is going to go and find herself a coffee, because she's not had a coffee yet. A lot of picture postcardy type places, apart from the massive tank of gas right in front of that one, obviously. Yeah, not very ugly, is it? Those traditional Scottish delicacies, Cullen skink, which is a soup, and stone-baked pizza. Oh, and that's quite a grand hotel, isn't it? It's the Duke of Fife that is the sort of landlord around here, and that is named after him, although he probably doesn't still own it. Most of these places now are in private hands. Bex is doing her best to ignore the War Memorial, but I'm not going to look at the War Memorial. Well, I am, obviously, because it's right there, but I'm going to look at what's next to it. That is an old aeroplane engine, and I knoweth not where it come from, so let's go and have a wee see Luke. That is one of the actual engines from a Vickers Wellington bomber that crashed here on a training flight in 1942. It hit one of the bits of high ground round here, which is quite common. So that engine is a memorial to the men that died in that crash, and also to all the aviators that died in the Cairngorms mountains. And if you're wondering how I know all that, I'm reading it on that sign there, but you probably guessed from the fact that I was talking about things that made sense. Bex is having a wee quiet moment. I'm going to go and spoil it by standing next to her talking to myself, but you want to see what she's seeing? Who wants to see what Bex is seeing? Hands up, everyone wants to see what Bex is seeing. Well, you're seeing it anyway, obviously, but look at this. Wow, isn't that pretty? I know we often get quite gushy about pretty places, but this is a really, really pretty place. This whole trip so far down Royal Deeside has just been absolutely incredible. Oh, it's not bad looking the other way either. That's it's not bad at all, is it? Yep. And at the top of the wee street we were just walking up, admiring this view, Bex has found this little coffee shop. So we're going to go in here and she's finally going to get herself a coffee before she starts to get a bit grumpy. This is a really nice wee cafe, and wait till you see the view from the seats that we just found outside. For now we're going to go in and place our wee order. Got some rainbow socks? They're very nice. But De Niro does not need any more socks. He doesn't need any socks, he hasn't got any socks. Bex is on the horns of a dilemma. They don't have any fruit scones, but they do have lots of cakes. So come on. This is really, really nice. We are liking this quite a lot. We say that quite a lot, don't we? We are liking this, but we are. So there's Bex in her happy place, which, as we've said before, is just a normal place, but with coffee. But look at the view we've got over the side of this little balcony. Look at that. The cliffs and the wee river running through its wee gorge. And off down that way, there are mountains and prettiness all around. Oh, and there may be cake. That is a ginger flapjack, and that is a white chocolate and coconut thing. Well, the Bothy in Braemar is highly recommended. Excellent coffee.
Very nice. I'm happy now.
If you want another posh building, that is the Invercalled Arms Hotel, which apparently is under renovation and getting opened in 2025. They're spending a lot of money on that. I bet it is going to be amazing and probably not cheap. Bex just said, although she won't say it again because she's a bit shy, what's on top of that thing? Is it a meerkat? Yeah, it's the ancient heraldic Scottish meerkat up there. That is Jock the meerkat. Bex is impatient to go and look at the ruins of the castle. She's stamping her wee feet saying, I want to go and see a castle, which hasn't happened. Oh, the Great North of Scotland Railway. I did not know there was a railway here now or at any time in the past. The Great North of Scotland Railway used to operate the Deeside line that is now long gone, but it was a train service from Aberdeen down to Balmoral that was used by the royal family, and also a special messenger train that ran whilst they were in residence. Oh, lots of nice wee shops here. Bex is in her element. I think that this sign was almost definitely put up by swans. Okay, Bex is less than impressed, but that is what's left of Crathes Castle, which I think is quite nice and quite interesting, but Bex thinks is underwhelming, I think she said. Is that it? They will be dots in the distance. That is 2 RAF Typhoon fighters just flown over. I heard the noise, looked up, couldn't see them, turned round and Bex was pointing at them. I should just look at Bex first. Didn't notice this last time we came down here and I showed you that river. There's a little well thing at the side. That's quite smart as well. And there's Bex heading towards the tartan shop. Who could buy one? You'd have to buy the pair. These are really cool. It's more of this wood carving. There's a fox and a... Why do otters always look so unhappy in these carvings? Otters and a fox and an eagle and a Highland coo and a wee squirrel. This is really nice. We love these things. But look, on the second one, again, the otters always look like... really? Why do otters always have that expression on their faces? Sort of, oh no, what have I done? Look. One of the most interesting things for us in this old church is this. It looks like an old font, but if you look at the date on the bottom, it predates the Protestant Reformation because the date is 1495. So I wonder how it survived, and I wonder how it's ended up in here. Lots and lots of nice little things to see. This is a really pretty place. If you're passing, you should definitely stop and go and have a coffee in the Bothy because it was really nice. Come a little bit further and we are now at Balmoral. location of the royal holiday home, the Balmoral Castle, which is just over there. Now, we're not going to look at the castle today. What we're going to show you is the royal family's wee church, which was rebuilt by Queen Victoria. It's quite nice. So that is the church up there, and I've just noticed down here there's a sign that says no photography in church grounds, which is not very welcoming. So the church is up there, but I can't take any photographs once I get past this point, so bugger. So behind me is a church that I'm not allowed to take any photographs of, so do not look at that. It is not a photograph of a church that I'm not allowed to take a photograph of. It's just, accidental. It's accidentally in the background of this shot as I walk back down to where we parked Mabel. I better get back down to Mabel because I asked Bex and De Niro if they wanted to go see the church, and he said no. But although we can't take pictures up at the church, I've just remembered something that I saw last time I was here, so I think you will like this. Lots of royal palaces, the Castle of May, Balmoral, lots of places that the royal family like to come and visit. You might have guessed it's a graveyard. Now that's the new graveyard, the modern one, but we are going to go in search of a bit of history. And this is the entrance to the bit that we are going to look at. This is the old part of the cemetery. Let's go and see what we can find. This is another atmospheric wee graveyard. That there is the remains of St Manners Church. And the gravestones here are all like 16th century, 17th century-ish. There's lots of different ages, and they're all very well laid out and very well looked after. There's a lot of quite high status people buried here, a lot of Lord Lieutenants and all that sort of thing. So it's quite an interesting place from that point of view. If you want to go reading the stones, there's Charles Lamont, who was born here. And there's James McLean, and there's Charles McLean. So lots of McLeans. That's again not entirely deliberate, but there is Crathes Parish Church up there that does not like getting its photo taken, and in front of it this ruin is St Manners Church, which does not mind getting its photo taken, so we know which one we prefer. And if you were really special, you got to get buried inside the ruins of the old church. How cool is that? And over here there's a grave that's quite interesting. Now here's another person that died in the Battle of the Somme. It is Lance Corporal John Hunter, who is from the Gordon Highlanders, and as you can see there, died of wounds received in the Somme, 30th of October 1916, aged 20 years. So he must have made it back and then died once he got home. I don't have to say we do like an old graveyard. I think you've probably figured that out by now, but there's some really interesting inscriptions, some really interesting stones here. And this one in the corner, I have no idea what this is. You are seeing this at the same time that I am. So let's go and see if we can see what it says on it. It says, "Sacred to the memory of the Reverend Charles M. Hardy." Okay. I can't really read what it says. It's sacred to the memory of the Reverend Charles M. Hardy, who after discharging the pastoral duties of this parish, something that is lost. You could probably make it out, but it's pretty much lost to the mists of time. And that is an unusual tabletop gravestone because the legs are quite tall and quite spindly, and as you can see it's got an urn on it. Yeah, not sure why. That is somebody McFarlane. Hello, somebody McFarlane, we do like your tombstone. This is another quite interesting one. This is in memory of Archibald Alexander Campbell, the Reverend Archibald Alexander Campbell, who was domestic chaplain in Scotland to Queen Victoria. So another touch of Queen Victoria in Balmoral. I don't know about you guys, but I think Bex and De Niro are really missing out. But I asked and they didn't want to come, so not my fault. This is more of Victoria's staff. That is Francis Clark, who was her Highland attendant, and he actually died in Buckingham Palace in 1895, and that stone was put up by Queen Victoria. And next to that is a memory of John Grant, who for 26 years was the faithful head forester to the Prince Consort and Queen Victoria. So he was basically a gardener, and he died at Rubrec. Now, I don't know where Rubrec is, but I'll put a wee caption up here that says, so you think I know what I'm talking about. Here's another member of the estate staff. This is Fairlie Sinclair, who was the wife of James Abercrombie, and James Abercrombie was the head stalker at Balmoral. I think that meant when young ladies walked up alleyways, he sort of followed them and took pictures and sort of tried to scare them. I think stalker possibly meant something different back then to what it means now. And you know, we always stop by the Commonwealth war graves that we find in cemeteries. Here is Guardsman C.S. Campbell from the Scots Guards, again from the First World War. If you are a fan of our royal family, and I know a lot of people are, they do a lot of good works and they bring a lot of money in for tourists, here's another member of staff. This guy for 22 years was Commissioner to Her Majesty the Queen at Balmoral. So these guys lived here, lived locally, but we know that the royal family love Balmoral Castle, and this is all the staff that it took to keep the royal machine ticking when they were up here on their holidays. This is also the last resting place of John Brown, who scandalised society by being so close to Queen Victoria after the death of her husband. I'm not really sure what the story was with that, if he was just a member of staff, if he was a trusted confidant, or if he was something more, but he is buried in this graveyard, and I don't know where, so I can't show you his grave. It would be nice to put the drone up here, but this is what they call an enhanced warning area, and I know for a fact there's lots of covert CCTV dotted about in these woods, so I'd probably get caught quite quickly, and they may not be very impressed with me flying a drone over the King's Royal Palace or his wee church. I'm wondering what Bex and De Niro have been up to. I would imagine they've both been having a bit of a nap. What do you reckon? Should we teach Bex that the price of having a nap when you're supposed to be exploring is getting woken up by me banging on the window? Oh no, she's woken up. There goes my plan of banging on the window and making her go, eek! You're just rattling along the road and then emergency stop. This is quite cool. This is obviously another Queen Victoria thing. 1837, 1897, 60 years. But I do like the words round the side. I'm now going to try and read to you without making a complete Horlicks of it. It says, "Shape thyself for use. The stone that may fit in the wall is left not in the way. Then may fate thy measure take and say, I find thee worthy, do this deed for me." Yeah, that's all very inspirational, but there's the important bit. Victoria, Queen and Empress, that was Empress of India, has reigned for 60 years, a bright and shining light to her people, who everywhere record loyalty to her and gratitude to God. So there you are. This place was very, very big into Queen Victoria, and she was quite big into it. She did like it here. And I wonder what the story is here, because that's all very nice. But in this bit of wall here, there is another old piece of stone there. There's a chain across it. Why is there a different piece of stone in there? That must be part of something else. That thing we were just looking at is in the wall of the old school, which is over there. And here is a tree, and the plaque in front of the tree says it's a Wellingtonia tree, and it was planted at school in 1897, the Diamond Jubilee year of Victoria. So that tree was planted in 1897. It's been there for a wee while. I do like all this history. We weren't actually sure if the school was still in use or if it was a house, and then we saw the satellite dish and there's a bottle of washing up liquid in the kitchen window, so that is somebody's house, so I'm not going to film it for too long, but quite an impressive school. And also quite an impressive house, I think. I don't think we've ever done quite so many emergency stops, but we were driving down the road and then we saw that. This is the entrance to the Glen Tanner estate. I know that from that green sign over there, but that's a little gatehouse tower thing. That is really cool. And yet again, another really pretty little river. It's just, this place is just amazing. I had no idea, as I say, we've not really been here very often in the past. It's not really an area that we frequent, but it is absolutely gorgeous. As you can see, you've got a river, you've got a tower, you've got an impressive gate. I'm probably standing on quite an impressive bridge. If I knew where I was and who was about, I'd put the drone up to get a picture of this bridge, because that's probably quite impressive too, but we can't see. And over there, just finishing the perfect picture, there is Mabel. And this is just incredible. We used the phrase picture postcard before, but this really is just a picture postcard scene. That is just amazing. Yeah, we're not going to try and get down there, but not an ugly bridge either. So that's the bridge with the gatehouse in the background. There we are. Get them both in the same shot, then you can see what I'm talking about. This is just, I am gobsmacked, as you can probably tell. This journey is rapidly turning into a series of emergency stops, because we just had another one. A really nice bridge, really nice river, and people swimming. So we're not going swimming, but we're going to go for a wee look at the bridge. So there is the river we are trying to get to, and there's the bridge we're going to go and have a look at. Now, if only we had some magical little device that would let us get closer to that bridge without getting our feet wet. De Niro is off for a wee explore. As long as he's not going hunting for ticks, we'll be fine. I don't think this is sort of tick stuff. There's no sheep or anything about, so Sheep and deer are where they get ticks from, I think. Some people over there are going for a wee swim. I bet it is not awfully warm, but there's that really cool bridge that we just had a look at from the drone. This is really nice. We are really liking Royal Deeside. We'd like to take De Niro for a paddle in the river, but there is the enemy of the greyhound, the style. He's a big bouncing galoot. Where's De Niro? De Niro is hiding in the bushes somewhere. He's, Bex is with De Niro. De Niro is refusing to move. De Niro! Yay! There he is! De Niro has had that very small runabout and now he's ready to go for a wee lie down. Oh, there's something that is worth knowing for future reference. This is on the Deeside Way. That obviously is the River Dee down there. So it's A to B to C the D. How clever is that? Not very, but I like it. Your hard-working YouTube correspondents are stopping for a break. Oh, I wonder who's parked their broomsticks out there. Anyway, this is a farm shop, and Bex does love a farm shop. It's always local, fresh food, and a really nice cafe, where hopefully there'll be coffee, obviously, and perhaps a wee scone, because we've not found a place with a nice wee scone since we've been doing this adventure. How to read bridges, how to read castles, and how to read churches. They could be an interesting read. Some of the food in this place does look amazing. Some people had some really nice looking dinners, but we just wanted a wee scone. And there's the 3 types of scone that are legally acceptable in descending order. So there you are in all its glory. It's a very nice looking scone and a reasonably nice looking cup of coffee. Mission Get Bex a Scone had been successfully accomplished. Now I changed my mind at the last minute. I saw that they had these sort of Bakewell tart type things and I thought I would give it a shot, and I was quite right to do so. It was extremely nice. So this is a place you get a taste of the real Scotland. If the real Scotland is chicken Kievs and garlic chili prawns. But over here is something quite cool. This is not log carvings of deer, this is metal cutout deer that are quite nice, but probably quite expensive. I bet deer. I do that deer joke every time and I'm not getting bored with it yet. Bex has had enough and is walking off. And the last port of call on this wee adventure is Crathes Castle. We're here for the park run. Yay! Crathes Castle is another site that is in the care of the National Trust for Scotland, and it's got a castle and formal gardens and a cafe. And this one is not a ruin, this one you can still go and visit inside. But I don't think we're doing that this trip because we've got a lot to see. And of course any noble family's castle has to have formal gardens. These are always inspired by what they saw on the continent. Scotland, not great at gardening but good at copying France and Italy to make it all look a bit continental. So that is Crathes Castle, which dates back to the 1500s, which was after the Wars of Independence, so quite a prosperous time. So it's not so much a castle as a big posh house. Given my new and ever-growing experience of these things, I think this was originally an L-planned tower house that's been extended and expanded over the years, but I'll have to check that out to see if I'm talking nonsense. Lots of cool wee bits lying about outside. Like this, dating back to 1694. Yeah, there is the date of either building or rebuilding, 1596. That is quite an impressive castle. And you see it's called L-plan because it's shaped like the letter L. That's the bottom bit and that's the top bit. And there's the door. And there's more heraldic gubbins up there on that wall. Quite like this place. It's really quite a pretty place to visit. It's also got lots of really nice woodland walks, and obviously there's the formal gardens that you can go into if you are so minded. We've already done the park run. We spare you the sight of us running about because it's very warm and very sweaty, and this one is very hilly, so it would not have been great television. The two of us glowering at each other and saying, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" De Niro specifically asked if he could come down this path, and it's not because I want to go and look at this squirrel down here, because as you know, we do like these wooden sculptures. Bex says we look at far too many of them and you're probably going to get bored, and she's probably right, but one more won't hurt. At least this squirrel does not look like it's trying to mug an owl from behind, like that one we saw last night, or maybe this morning, or yesterday, or tomorrow, depending on how I edit this. And there's a visitor from America. That is a sequoia, or a giant redwood as we used to call them when I were a lad. You don't see many of those in Scotland. They are quite impressive, but most of the big houses had one or two just for effect, just to show people how rich you were. You could afford to have trees brought in from America.
That's not a squirrel.
That's not a squirrel, that's actually another really cool carving, but there's a squirrel here because we ran past it and I know what a squirrel looks like. That is, that's an otter that doesn't appear to have a look of terror on its face. It's not a bashful otter. Most otters that we've seen have been quite bashful. We're having a debate about what this is. I think it's an otter, Bex thinks it's not an otter. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. I'm going with otter. Although, to be fair, it doesn't have an ottery tail, but it does have ottery claws, so no idea. And the mystery has been solved. A gentleman who used to work here has just walked past with his dog and said it's a pine marten. And pine martens are famous, well, famous with him anyway, for catching the last grey squirrels in these parks. So all the grey squirrels have been eradicated here, and as that guy just said, come on the reds. The red squirrels are what we are all about. Grey squirrels are invasive. And just to prove that I'm not actually going mad, I'm going to go and find that squirrel, because it's not up there and that's where I thought it was. But by this point we had run 5 kilometres, so thinking was not a strong point. And De Niro's extendable lead is causing problems. He keeps getting tangled up. He's not quite got the hang of it. Well, one of the two of them has not quite got the hang of it. I'm blaming De Niro. Sniff, sniff, sniff. Oh, and then eat some grass. Sniffing and eating grass are De Niro's things he wants to do today. There you are. We may have just been wandering about for longer than I want to admit, but I knew I'd seen a squirrel when we ran up this hill, and there he is. That's a non-threatening, non-dangerous looking squirrel. Although it does look like it's got its wee fists up for a fight. Come on in, put him up, put him up, put him up. He'd probably punch me in the nuts. Oh, I am quite glad to see that sign, but not as glad as she is. We don't park run for the love of running, we park run for the love of finding a nice cafe like this. So that's the very nice courtyard of the castle. This courtyard was actually built in 1702, not 1500. And there is the cake that I'm about to eat. Bex is horrified. She's in a very healthy scone. We are loving these adventures, so thank you to everyone who supports us on Patreon and Ko-fi. It means the world to us, and it puts diesel in Mabel's tank and lets us go out and do these things that we love doing so much. And we have got so much more to show you, so if you do want to support us, please, the links are at the end of the video.